Hello, wrestling fans, and welcome to the latest edition of the We Can't Wrestle podcast. Nate Maxon, your host, here with you. Episode 145 of the We Can't Wrestle podcast here. And, of course, I am joined by my brother, Aaron.
Hello.
Hello. We're Mrs. Doubtfire. I love that movie. It was a run by fruiting. When he's doing when he's doing the job interview, he's like, "I'm a hot dog," or when he's doing all the calls to her to try to figure out with the babysitter thing, and he calls, he's like, "I am Job." God, I miss that man. Anyway, welcome to the latest edition of the show, everybody. And this week we are continuing our dream rosters, but this time around a new twist. We've done 93, 89, 98. Aaron this week is going to present us with a modern day dream roster, which I will also be doing one as well, and so will Archie. So, that being said, we'll get into that in just a moment. But first, I'm going to tell you. Let me tell you. But first, October 2nd, 2021, just a couple of weeks away, we will be in Fort Wayne, Indiana. The We Can't Wrestle podcast will be at the Heroes and Legends wrestling event. I'm very much looking forward to this coming out, seeing the peoples. And also, these are really good events. Aaron and I have been to quite a few of them, and it's always a good show.
It's well run, well produced.
Yes, plenty of vendors. It's a lot of, actually, the indie talent that wrestles there. He's got a lot of good indie talent that wrestles there. And always you get to see the legends wrestle, too. So let's see, Rikishi, the Headbangers, Gangrel, Samu, Kevin Thorne, Elijah Burke, Greg Valentine, Scott Steiner, Tommy Dreamer, James Storm, Chris Adonis, Matt Seidel, JTG, Cliff Compton, the guy that was Domino, he and Cherry will be there, yeah. Eva Leese, let's see, Charlie Haas, Kevin Sullivan, Missy Hyatt, Juventud Guerrera, Super Crazy. You know how much I like Super Crazy. Yeah. Al Snow, who, by the way, just saved a kid's life.
Yeah, good for him.
Our home area boy, Mr. Al Snow from Lima, Ohio. The Boogeyman will be there. The Boogeyman. He was fun last time we were there. I like the Boogeyman.
He was good with. He was like fucking with the kids. It was funny.
Yeah. And, of course, the Queen of Extreme, Francine. So there you go. The Headbangers are actually going to wrestle, as is Gangrel, JTG. JTG versus Pineapple Pete is one of the... Chris Masters is going to wrestle. Let's see here. Who else? Juventud Guerrera and Super Crazy are going to be in the HLW Cruiserweight Championship match in a triple threat with Cody Lee. And the HLW champion, Anthony Totelli, will be defending against Elijah Burke. So you can see some of the legends and the stars wrestle as well at the show. Come out and also, of course, see the We Can't Wrestle podcast. We will be recording, doing some live segments on Facebook.
I will be selling 8x10 autographed pictures of Jumping Joey Maggs. They're not actually signed by Joey Maggs. They're just signed by me.
All right. Well, that being said, also real quick, if you haven't yet, join our Facebook group. Join the conversation. It's always fun. The We Can't Wrestle podcast Facebook group. And, of course, Reliving the Extreme. And last but not least, and then we'll get into the show, check out WrestleNet Radio. It is available 24/7, 365 Wrestling Talk. It is available in the Google Play App Store. Just search for WrestleNet Radio. And I actually made the link that you can use on an Apple phone in your Safari browser easier than the long-ass thing it was. Now you just go to www.tinyurl.com/WrestleNet Radio. So there you go. There's everything we got going on. It's a lot, but we enjoy it. So what do you want to do first? Your dream rosters? Or you said you had something else up your sleeve too there.
We'll just do this little game. It's called WWF or WCW. Okay?
Okay.
And I just wrote down 6 acts, whatever you want to call them, because it's not all singles guys, that probably have equal time for the most part in both companies, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
and you're going to tell me if you think of them as a WCW guy or a WWF guy.
Okay.
All right. And
I'm
and,
down.
and WCW, it means like NWA, WC. Like, I don't want to get into that.
Right. Don't get into the minutia.
Yeah. Turner, or
Vince.
you can do Atlanta, New York, however you want to do it. Okay.
Right.
First name, Sid Vicious, and don't just go by the name. I know he's stuck with Sid in the just Sid in general.
My inner wrestling fan thinks of him as a WCW guy.
So do I.
Yeah. I mean he was I think he got more, what do I want to say? I think his character got treated better in the WWF. And that's because Vince knows how to book a big man. But I still think, when I think of Sid, I think of like Sid in the WCW, in the Horsemen, in the Skyscrapers.
Yeah, and he's the guy that's when I think about when I thought WCW was the coolest, was in like that Galoob era. And
Yeah.
he's one of those guys. He's the guy that I think about when I'm thinking about WCW. I think of like, oh, the Steiner brothers and their cool singlets, Luger in his blue trunks, Sting, Sid, you know what I mean? Brian Pillman. Those are like the guys that I think of.
And you think of Sid in the singlet, not in
Yeah.
the Hogan tights or whatever. Yeah.
Like that's the WCW I think about, and Sid's a big part of that in my opinion. So I agree with you on that one. The next one is, and there's only 6 of these, so it won't be that long. The next one is Jeff Jarrett. Is Jeff Jarrett a WCW guy or a WWF guy?
I think of Jarrett as a WWF guy.
Me too.
Because I think of JEFF, JARRE, Jeff Jarrett. And I mean, I know he got a better push in WCW because of Vince Russo. But yeah, I definitely think of that Jeff Jarrett, that 95 through 97 Jeff Jarrett, Yeah. And the funny thing about it is the lasting images of this proves the gimmick was good, because he actually spent more time in WCW overall than he did in the WWF, I think. When you think, because in WWF he was there, well, maybe not, because he came in 93 till about 96. Then he came back in 97 to 99. Yeah, so he was in WWF a little longer.
Yeah, and then he went to WCW, and they were out of business in 2001. So,
yeah,
to me, Jarrett's a WWF guy.
He definitely looked out of place in WCW in 96 and 97 when he was there.
That was lame.
He never fit in. And he had that music that like.
Yeah. If you're not gonna be Jeff Jarrett, if you're not gonna be Double J Jeff Jarrett, don't wear that outfit and don't have that.
Right. Yeah.
The next one, because there's 2 tag teams, so I kind of want to space it out a little bit. So we'll do one more singles guy, and then one of the tag teams. Rey Mysterio, WWF or WCW?
That one's tough.
I know which one it is for me. I was curious what you think.
I think, to be honest, for me, it's probably WWE.
I'm the same way. And I know WWE. I know what you're saying, but you know what I'm saying. Like,
yeah,
just to get all crazy. But yeah, he's more of a Vince guy to me, because I think he was treated. He was, how do I want to say it? He was respected and treated properly by the WWE. WWE than WCW.
I think the only time that WWE mishandled him, ironically, was his first world title reign. They put the title on him because Eddie passed, And then they just made him look like a schlub the whole time. Like, and the problem was they decided to put him in the ring with people like Mark Henry and Great Khali, and obviously Vince McMahon's going to have Great Khali crush him like a grape, you know.
Yeah.
But other than that, you're right. I mean, he's a smaller guy. I look at him kind of like AJ. He's a smaller guy that Vince has always treated surprisingly well.
Yeah.
Never really made, other than that first title reign back in like '06, that he's never made him look like a schlub. He's always treated him like a main event talent, you know. And I definitely think of Ray more as a WWE guy.
Me too. The next one I think we're going to be on the same boat with as well. It's a tag team. It's Hawk and Animal.
NWA, WCW.
Me too. I think
No doubt.
There's
No
no
doubt.
doubt. It's just I don't want to say they sucked in the WWF, and they're always like, "Oh, WWF treated them like shit." WWF cleaned them up. That's the only thing they did wrong with them.
They did, and a lot. You listen back and think about things. And this is no disrespect to those guys because they were, especially Animal. They were a great attraction, and I'm not trying to disrespect them or their legacies or their lives. But you also hear stories looking back now about how also by the time they came to the WWF, Hawk was struggling with his shit, you know?
Yeah.
And somebody like that isn't going to, obviously Vince isn't going to put his full weight behind them. And yeah, like you said, also the WWF cleaned them up. They didn't have they were just another tag team with the tag teams instead of being this menacing force,
Yeah.
you know?
It just WCW, they were badasses, and in WWE they were there and was what it was. Like it didn't help, and I don't want to say it didn't help. Like when they first got there, they were just like glad handing with the Hart Foundation and stuff like that. Like it shouldn't be that they're bad guys, but they don't want to be friends with anybody. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
So I think that's what hurt them. This one I think is an easy one too, and we're probably going to agree on it. Paul Orndorff. Maybe not, because you're pretty polarizing with your Paul Orndorff Hogan run, but
Go ahead.
I just think when I think of Paul Orndorff, I think of Paul Orndorff in WCW.
I think of Paul Orndorff in the WWF. So I think of Mr. Wonderful from '85 to '87, and all the stuff with WrestleMania 1, and like you said, everybody knows I love the Hulk Hogan Paul Orndorff feud, and why won't he pick up the phone? And I mean, he just and his turn on Hogan is fucking fantastic.
Oh yeah, and I'm not poo-pooing on it or anything like that. It is great. I just think of Paul Orndorff as the WCW guy, and part of it has to do with age. You know what I mean?
Oh, and he was great in WCW. I mean,
even though I knew all that stuff and watched all that stuff, but as a kid, I'm like, I thought of Paul Orndorff more as WCW. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, he had great matches with Steamboat, and it's like he had a feud with Cactus Jack that shouldn't have worked. Like Paul Orndorff versus Cactus Jack. It shouldn't be a good match, but then it was fucking phenomenal. You know what I mean? Like, these two should not do good together. It worked.
Another thing I agree with Brian Last on, that I've heard him mention a few times, is wouldn't it have been so much better instead of the Black Scorpion if it would have been Sting and Paul Orndorff?
Yeah.
Because they were the dudes with attitudes, and there's that Clash of the Champions where Orndorff walks out kind of on Sting and doesn't look back or whatever, and then they just never did anything with it, and they went on to that stupid Black Scorpion story. And I whenever Brian Last has mentioned that, I've always been like, yeah, that would have been so much better, have Sting feud with Orndorff.
Yeah. Or at least had the Black Scorpion be Orndorff. But the last two guys is pretty much a tag team, but they've also had individual careers. It's Hall and Nash.
WWF.
Think of them as WWF?
Yes. Uh, okay. All right. Let me go back. It's gonna sound crazy. I guess I have to be kind of split on this one. When I think of Scott Hall, I immediately think of Razor Ramon.
Yeah.
Because I love Razor Ramon. So I guess Scott Hall, I think of WWF, and even though he was the world champion for Kevin Nash, I think of WCW because hit Big Sexy stands out in my mind more than Big Daddy Cool Diesel. So I guess I have to cheat and say I got to split them up because I think it's Razor Ramon and then I think of Big Sexy Kevin Nash first. So
All right. I think of them as WCW guys, but that's also maybe I would jaded myself because I didn't think of the gimmick. You know what I mean? I just thought of Hall and Nash. So
yeah.
if I would have thought of Razor Ramon, I probably would have thought WWF. But that's all right.
Still a fun exercise.
I would say I don't know if that was stupid or not, but I thought thought about it on my lunch break today.
Yeah, it's funny because you did that, and I was thinking about like maybe the next episode or something, doing that thing I used to do back in the early days of the show where I pick the best gimmick, and find a few guys that had quite a few different gimmicks and what was their best gimmick. We might play that game again sometime soon. I like that one.
Okay. So is it roster time?
It's roster time, and like I said, folks, this time around, Aaron has decided to make a roster of modern wrestlers, which I am very interested to hear this, since you are quite the I don't want to say critic. You're not particularly fond of modern product wrestling, so I'll be interested to see who stands out to you to be on your roster.
And I want to preface that by saying that I am not a fan of
the wrestlers.
I'm not a fan of the product that they're putting out there. The wrestlers are perfectly fine. The wrestlers now, they're some of the best athletes out there. Like they're, I don't want to say 10 times the athletes that were in the past, but they are. I mean, and any professional wrestler that's the age of like Steve Austin or somebody is going to tell you that. But the shit they're given is what the problem is. I forgot to write something down, some kind of filibustering or whatever you want to call it.
Did you do 10 faces, 10 heels, 5 tag teams like you did your other roster?
Of course.
All right.
That's how you build a wrestling company. I play that fucking game that we play, which you should download, Wrestling Empire, by the way. It's super fun. I do that on that game. I want
to ask you, if you haven't played Wrestling Revolution, folks, play it. Is there a way to turn the controls off on Wrestling Empire so that it just controls itself?
Yeah, you do. It's got a booking career.
And it doesn't make you have to control the wrestler?
No, it works like the other game.
Okay. Because I don't like to control the wrestler. I just like to simulate the result. It
works exactly like Booking Revolution, except there's different. It's more integral to some of the stuff. Like they'll tell you that your roster doesn't have enough strength depth, so you got to like bring up the strength of your wrestler. You travel all throughout the earth. You travel all throughout the globe, like to different regions, and say you pick Mexico. Say you pick Super Lucha or whatever. You can branch out a little ways away from Mexico, and say you go over to like England or something. If you do a show over there and it's shit, they'll be like, the English crowd don't like you, and you gotta like they're like, you did bad. But then like say you do really good, they'll be like, oh, the English fans are digging Super Lucha. They might like it even more than Empire Pro Wrestling. And like if you go into a new territory, like I took Super Lucha. I'm running Super Lucha as Gorilla Monsoon. And he's built Super Lucha up to being like the third top fucking show on the top 10 things. and he's going all over like South America and shit in Mexico with this Super Lucha. We're just running it, but we're kind of starting to get into the United States, and we went into like part of the United States, and this was apparently Stephanie McMahon's territory because when we showed up at the arena, like I hadn't seen this until yesterday because I've been just kind of chilling in Mexico or in South like this South America and shit like that, and Argentina. But I went in there, and they were like, "Oh, you're in New York or whatever." So I go in, and all of a sudden, like Stephanie McMahon's character's got like Road Dogg and like X-Pac with her, and she's like, "The Southwest region of the United States is our territory. If you want, you better fight us." So then Gorilla Monsoon, Randy Orton with an eye patch, and Rey Mysterio fighting Stephanie McMahon, Road Dogg, and X-Pac, and we kicked the shit out of them. And then we're like, we'll run arenas wherever we want to run arenas.
That's funny.
It's fantastic.
Randy Orton with an eye patch.
I don't know how he got the eye patch either because I signed him away from Stronghold or whatever whatever that Stronghold Wrestling is or whatever. I signed him away from that, and I was like, "Why's he got an eye patch?"
What happened, Randy?
So yeah, it's pretty goddamn fun. Like it's got, how do I say it? It's more of a story episodic type thing. It's like it's fun. I downloaded
it. I just haven't.
You just gotta make sure you pick cooking career, and not wrestling career. It's got both of them. But yeah, it's fun. All right. Sorry about that. But anyway, I got sidetracked. Got one thing to write down, and then I'm done.
We're gonna find out who is part of Aaron Elite Wrestling.
Yes. I don't want that guy in that spot. I just forgot to write one thing down. It's gonna throw me off if I don't do it. All right. Okay. The first thing is I've got this company, okay, and I've named it Pro Wrestling Grand Prix. All right.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to actually do something that every other company has tried to say they're going to do, but they never do. We're actually going to put wrestling back into wrestling. Got this promotion, and I realize that I have money. I'm a wrestling fan, but I am not a wrestler, nor should I pretend to know the inner workings and how to deal with wrestlers. So I'm hiring as my booker a man that I think right now is probably one of the best wrestling bookers out there, and that man is Aaron Stevens.
Okay.
But Aaron Stevens is being hired under the knowledge that he's not going to be on TV. He's not going to be working in front, like in the ring and doing all this, that, and the other thing. He is simply booking and helping me with talent. That's his job. Okay? It's not going to be like Aaron Stevens is booking himself in these matches. So I'm offering him money to come in and not book himself.
Yeah, I was going to say enough money to not book himself into the not be Dusty Rhodes.
Yes. Now, the other important thing is who's going to be introducing my wrestlers, and that person will be Justin Roberts.
Okay.
My backstage interviewer is Kyle Durden, and my announce team is Joe Galley and Matt Stryker. So,
all right,
that is who is presenting my product. I will have a heavyweight champion, obviously, a tag team champion, and a television champion.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll let you pick. Do you want tag teams, heels, or faces first?
Faces.
Okay. I'll go through my top 4 Well, okay. I'm going to ask you some more questions. Do you want it because on each side, the heels and the faces, the numbers 1 through 4 are my grade 8, and then the other ones are kind of interchangeable. So you got to tell me, do you want it from the bottom to the top or the top to the bottom?
I like to work from the opening match to the main event.
All right. So, like I said, until we get to the 4th from the top, these guys are all kind of somewhat interchangeable.
Mm-hmm.
First baby face that I'm going to sign is Flip Gordon.
All right.
He's young. He's an indie prospect, but he's not like I would say like super indie guy or whatever. Like people are gonna like lose their shit for him right away and probably bitch if I do something they don't like about it. He's just somebody that like a puppy with big paws or whatever. I don't even know how long he's been wrestling. I think he would be a good guy to start as like a underneath good looking baby face.
He's also very exciting to watch, but not a spot monkey.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Like he's very good at he's very and it's not he's obviously not the same. He's obviously more he's obviously quicker and a different style than this guy, but ring psychology wise, I almost look at him as like Owen Hart. Owen Hart always knew when to do the high spot, but also not to do too many of them, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And I think you're going to see somewhat of a trend as I go through this roster. And you know me you've known me my entire life, so you know what kind of wrestling I like, you know what kind of style I like, and that's what I'm trying to implement with my Grand Prix wrestling here. Next guy is a guy that honestly doesn't get enough credit for I don't want to say reinventing himself, but just getting so much better than he was when he first came in, which he was never bad and he was always entertaining, but I'm just saying, I'll just say it. The next guy on my list is JTG.
Okay. He is, you're right. He grew. What do I want to say? You can see and with this being modern product, not only like with somebody like say let's say Paul Orndorff. Now hindsight 2020, you and I could go back and watch Paul Orndorff in his infancy in Georgia and blah 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 and see him, but literally as a wrestler because we've watched him in real time in our lives progress as a performer. I see what you're saying about JTG. He has grown from what? Go ahead and elaborate. I think you know what I'm trying to say, but
he went from being a comedy gimmick, and he could have honestly just kept doing that gimmick.
Yeah,
his entire career.
Yeah, I was gonna say because that's the kind of stuff now. If he wrestles in the indie scene and whatever, the guys do that all the time.
Yeah. But he chose to go the other way and become a actual. I don't want to say actual wrestler. He decided to go the other way, and instead of going the easy route and just playing off what you got when you got into what you got from the WWE, he decided to go the other way and say, "Okay, I'm gonna put in the work. I'm gonna become a wrestler." You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, I don't want to compare him to this guy, but he did like a reverse Coco Beware. Like Coco Beware was like working his ass off before he got to the WWF, and I'm not even saying that I didn't like Coco in the WWF, but he got fat, right. He got lazy, and then for the rest of his career, he just flaunted that fucking bird and didn't do jack shit. You know what I mean? But JTG was like, you know what? No, I'm gonna go out there and I'm gonna start working like these guys and bust my ass, get in the best shape of my career, and not be a gimmick. And I think he's great.
Me too. Me too.
Like I like him more now than I did when he was in Crime Time.
Mm-hmm. So, I absolutely agree. I actually, when they were Crime Time, I was a bigger fan of Shad. When they turned Shad on JTG and had him go heel, I had big expectations for Shad because I was really actually a big fan of his.
I liked him too. I
And
just don't think he liked. I don't think he liked wrestling as much as
right.
whatever. You know what I mean?
But JTG, yeah, I definitely agree. JTG has grown leaps and bounds as a performer.
I'm not saying Shad didn't like wrestling. What I want to say is I think Shad looked more at wrestling as
an avenue to get somewhere else.
Yes.
Yeah, to
like
be an
this
actor.
This will get me noticed by people and move on to something else.
Mm-hmm.
I think he did. And I'm not knocking him. I'm not knocking the guy for it or anything like that. It's just what I think.
Yeah, and I didn't want to get off the beaten path. I just thought he had a great style and a great look to be a killer heel. And like you said, obviously he just didn't have the passion for it. So that's probably why it didn't work out. To be honest.
Next dude on my list is Nakamura.
Oh yeah.
If you want Nakamura, if you can sign anybody in the current landscape of wrestling, why wouldn't you want Nakamura on your show?
Absolutely. One of the best wrestlers in the world for the past decade. He has a charisma unlike any, I think, to be honest with you, he has a charisma unlike any wrestler of the past at least 15 years. He doesn't even have to speak English or good English. People don't give a shit. His promos are still over. And I know you aren't a fan, but I would pick up Rick Boogs with him too because I like Rick Boogs.
Fuck that noise.
Man, did you watch SummerSlam?
Yes.
Because also one of my favorite things of the modern product is Pat McAfee. Pat McAfee is the fucking shit. That guy loves wrestling. You can tell. He's like the best color commentator in wrestling right now. And did you watch him jamming on the table when Rick Boogs was playing? God damn it, it's so entertaining.
I know. I'm not saying he's not entertaining, and I'm not saying that entrance to it, but I don't want Boogs. Sorry.
All right.
I'll just hire somebody else to play his guitar if I need to.
But definitely Nakamura. He is always going to give you a fantastic match. And he's one of those guys that's versatile enough, too, where you could throw him in a makeshift tag team with somebody.
And that's what I'm saying. That's why he's not in my grade 8.
Mm-hmm.
Because I want him to be able to be. I don't want him to go, oh, he's the champ, and then I take it off of him, and now all of a sudden he's like teaming with Flip Gordon because he's gonna take the young guy under. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's and there's a couple guys that are gonna be that aren't in my top 4 or top 8. That's the reason why. But Nakamura, he's going to be. I don't want to say my utility player, but he's going to be a guy that if I need him to be the champ, he can be the champ, but he doesn't need the belt. So he doesn't have to be in the grade 8. He doesn't need the belt. He's Nakamura, for Christ's sakes. He's Japanese Jeff Hardy. He doesn't need the belt.
And he's so yes, exactly. He's so good. Let's say you have, you said you're grade 8. Say one of your big main event guys goes down with a neck injury or something. He's going to be out for a year. Hey, let's just elevate Nakamura into the 8.
Yeah.
And nobody will even notice.
Nope. And then they won't notice when he's not in it anymore either because they're just happy he's around.
Mm-hmm.
So anything else on Nakamura?
No, sir.
All right. Next guy on my list, and I'm just going to say this. This is going to be my inaugural TV champion, is Cesaro.
Good pull.
Yes.
Cesaro is an anomaly. They're a guy that size shouldn't be able to do what he does.
And I know you guys, and I know you say it's Adam Cole, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
he's the best wrestler on the planet right now, or whatever.
Yeah, my personal favorite.
And I don't know who Archie would say because he's not here. I know Chad's partial to Cole as well, but he also likes Punk.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, in my opinion, that Cesaro is the best wrestler on the planet. And because he can do every goddamn thing he needs somebody to do.
He's also. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, and I'm not knocking Adam Cole, but Adam Cole cannot suplex somebody while he's standing on the bottom rope and the person's on the apron and suplex them into the ring.
Right.
He can't spin anybody else on the planet around for 42 repetitions or revolutions or whatever. That dude is a goddamn freak.
Mm-hmm. And that's why. That's
when
why.
When I'm sorry, I don't want to.
No, it's all right.
But like when 2013 or 2012, John Cena goes, that dude is a freak. He's the strongest person I know. It's like, you're a freak, John. You know what I mean? It's like, I know I'm a freak, but that dude's freaky strong and freaky awesome. You know what I mean? Like,
and he has literally been my biggest old Vince headache. I do not understand why old Vince cannot get behind Cesaro for a sustain. You would think that Cesaro is everything Vince McMahon wants a wrestler to be. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's got a great physique. He's got a great look. He's built like a brick shit house. And on top of it, let's just say it. Let's and I know this guy keeps coming up, but he was one of the greats, so fuck it. Cesaro is a modern day Paul Orndorff. If you look at modern wrestling, Cesaro is Paul Orndorff. Am I wrong?
Are you just saying like off of looks?
No, I'm saying like off of everything. He's got the look. He's got the ability. He does shit that people his size shouldn't be able to do. I mean, he's just overall.
And he can talk.
I don't get it. I do not get old Vince with Cesaro. Because there are two Vince McMahons to me. There is Vince McMahon and there's old Vince.
And he's likable.
Mm-hmm.
But he can be a heel if you want him to be.
And people fucking love the guy. Yeah. I don't get it. But yes, good pull for your roster.
Now that I've got him in Wrestling Grand Prix, he can come out to fame.
Pay for the rights.
Fame, yes. One of the only guys that gets the music that he's getting to pay for. So he gets to come out to it. And
everybody else gets the We Can't Wrestle public domain music.
Yeah. JTG, you will come out to Pop Goes the Weasel. I like it. I don't know why Pop Goes the Weasel popped into my head, but yeah, Cesaro, and that's why I think he'd be like the best guy to make my TV champion. Because I would treat the TV championship like a TV champion is supposed to be treated. And guess what? Defends it every week on TV.
Right.
I'm even going to let him go a fucking year, and nobody can beat him for a year. And it's a 20-minute time limit television title. Treat it with respect.
Like Arn Anderson's TV title.
Yes. The next guy is Tommaso Ciampa.
Good pull.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I was just gonna say, I watched that guy in Ring of Honor, and actually, I think a great storyline for Ciampa, and I think you and I may have even discussed this in the past. I may have brought it up to you. I guess you couldn't do it now. If you're starting your wrestling promotion now, you couldn't do it because Ciampa's more of a grizzled veteran, I guess, or getting there. But early on, when Ciampa came into WWE, we just talked about Cesaro. I always thought when he first came in, Cesaro being the mentor of Ciampa, and then they would have made a badass tag team. For some reason, those two guys just seemed like they would go together for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, Ciampa's definitely a guy you want on your roster. He's badass. He's like a little fucking stick of dynamite.
Yeah. And for like the first 4 months, he's not going to do anything. Like, he's not going to wrestle. He's not going to talk. He's just going to watch. He's just going to watch. And then people are going to be like, what is this guy doing? Like, what is he watching? Like, and then eventually it would come down to two guys would be in the ring. He shows up, and who's he going to side with? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know who those two guys are going to be yet. We'll figure out where I need to plug it in there. And the way you can decide is, say he comes out and watches, he can watch every single person on the roster, and who are the fans more intrigued when he's watching? You know what I mean? Like, oh,
right.
Okay. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, you get a little more of a pop when he comes out and watches Cesaro.
Yeah.
You know, like the crowd's like, oh, he's looking at Cesaro.
Is he gonna attack Cesaro today? You know,
Yeah.
but like say he comes out and looks at JTG, and people are like, we don't give a fuck.
Nobody wants to see that shit.
Yeah. So that's what I would do with him for a couple months.
Kind of like WCW did with Raven.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Only wouldn't speak.
Right.
Raven spoke, which is what Raven did best. But yeah, Ciampa ain't gonna speak. He's just gonna stare.
Stroke the beard.
Yeah. So anything else on him?
No, sir.
All right. The next guy, before we get into the top 4 faces of my company, is a guy that, even though he's on the babyface side, he's just kind of a tweener, kind of an anti-hero, and a guy that I know some people don't like and some people do. And I was a fan of him in the WWE, and I'm still a fan of him now, even though he has a somewhat of a garbage wrestling fetish. It's Jon Moxley. I want Jon Moxley in my company.
You cannot. Moxley's one of those guys that, and you know what? Whatever with the garbage wrestling thing. Yes, I know he does it. Yes, I know he's done it. But I almost look at a lot of people compare it. They try to do the thing where they're like, Jon Moxley's a modern day Steve Austin, and I don't shit on that because they're saying that. But I almost think of Jon Moxley more as a modern day Mick Foley. And the reason I say that is because, yes, he can do the garbage wrestling and has, but he can also take said garbage wrestling and incorporate it into a match that doesn't look like garbage wrestling. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like Jon Moxley.
He can also not do it if he doesn't need to. You know what I mean? Like he can be like, Jon Moxley, you're not going to do garbage wrestling.
Okay, then I'll just wrestle.
And he'll still be entertaining as shit, and he'll still get over.
Over as fuck.
He did it in the WWF. He did garbage wrestling in the WWF. Yeah. And am I saying that he would never garbage wrestle in my company? No, but he wouldn't. I mean, he wouldn't do it every week.
Well, and if it's done,
it definitely wouldn't be like a Nick Gage coming around.
No, but and that's what I was going to say. If done properly, it's not always garbage wrestling. There is a difference between having a hardcore match. Randy Orton and Mick Foley.
I know, and that's what I'm saying. Like, he can have a hardcore match, but we're not gonna have the shit that you see in fucking game changer wrestling or fucking CCW. Keep that shit in the fucking CCW, buddy.
Keep it in the cesspool where it should be.
Yeah, that shit ain't gonna be on my TV. You ain't putting Nick Gage on my fucking TV. Fucking Meth Michaels. That shit ain't gonna happen.
But yeah, definitely Moxley should be on any modern day roster. And also, he's beneficial at this point in his career if you're doing this roster today, whereas literally at this point he is a veteran in your locker room too.
Yeah.
You know. So
he's still he's a veteran, but he's still somebody that is younger and people might listen to more. So
Mm-hmm.
Moxley's on my show.
Can we take a break so I can get a beer?
Yeah.
Okay. I might smoke real quick too, since I'm
Okay.
going to be downstairs. I'll be right back though.
All right.
So I'm gonna do a fucking head, fucking earbuds, fucking earbuds. I'm gonna do a wrestling nerd thing here real quick, and then we can get back into your thing.
Okay.
So I'm reading that Nitro book,
Yeah.
and as I'm reading it, one of the things that book is showing me is the genius of Craig Leathers. Okay,
Okay.
because I'm in the part of the book where they're talking about the NWO and getting that feel that you had for the NWO and all that shit. Like,
Yeah.
example, he was like, well, if the NWO's buying the spots on Nitro, then they should look like a amateur college kid cut it together, or what have you,
Yeah.
with their videos and shit. Well, then they're talking about, the following announcement has been paid for by the New World Order thing.
Yeah.
And he was like, it needs to sound different than anything else. That just that thing needs to sound different than anything else on TV, on wrestling TV. So him and Neil Pruitt were discussing what they wanted to do, and he brought up this guy for this station in Atlanta called 99X named Keith Eubanks. And he was like, if we can get his kind of a voice down, it's really cool. It's different, blah, 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 blah. And the reason I'm saying wrestling nerd is then I go back and I look up on YouTube, and there was actually only one video that they had like a snippet of these voiceovers that this guy did. And it was like, man, it's so cool to hear the actual inspiration voice for that. That's such an iconic thing in our brain.
Yeah.
So just real quick, this is from that radio station in 1995. If it'll play.
Never mind. Too much free time on your hands? Yeah. Try this. Gee, I'm kind of thirsty.
You see what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
they just copied that guy's voice from that radio station,
Why didn't
and
they
that
just get
became
that guy.
I don't know, but that became, you know what I mean? Like, something
Yeah.
so simple becomes this iconic fucking thing. And I was like, man, I'm nerding out right now. All right, we just did Moxley.
Yeah.
57. All right, so after Mr. Moxley, who do you have next babyface on your roster?
All right, now we're moving into my top 4 baby faces. First one of the Great 8 is the Hangman himself, Adam Page.
Very good pull.
Yes.
He is over like Rover. He can be your everyman babyface.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's also the thing that, like I said, I didn't want this to be a complaining about modern product or anything like that, but he's the biggest botch of AEW booking wise. Because it's like I said, I don't hate everything. It's just that I try to find the good and the bad in both both promotions and everything like that. But AEW, they kind of screwed the pooch with Adam Page, and now it's like too late to go back with him.
Yeah.
Now you got Daniel Bryan there, you got fucking Punk there. Owens is probably going to show up.
Malachi Black.
Black. And unfortunately, it's too hard to go back now with him.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a couple of years from now, you might be able to do it. But right now, if you had Adam Page come out there now and try to do something, people wouldn't buy it.
But yeah, he's definitely a good pull to be in your promotion because, like I said, you need the audience connects with him. Like I said, every man. The audience is like, yeah, I drink beer too. I like cowboy shit too.
Yeah,
and that's yeah. He's definitely a definite want on a modern roster.
Yes. All right. Next, the grade 8s are pretty easy. I shouldn't say easy, but there's not a lot to say. Oh, well, why would you want that guy? You know what I mean? The next guy is obviously somebody I want on my show because why wouldn't you? It's AJ Styles.
Yes, absolutely.
Hello, AJ. You're fantastic. You just do whatever you want to do. But at the start, you're coming in as a babyface because they're going to cheer for you anyway.
when
you first come out. So,
and he can heal very easily for you if you need him to.
Yes,
But
coming in first year or so, he's a face because, like I said, they're gonna this crowd is gonna go crazy for him anyway. So let's just give him what they want. Face AJ for a little bit.
And before Adam Cole came along, AJ was my favorite wrestler in the world, and he's still one of the greatest in the world. I would never say, "Oh, Adam Cole's my favorite, so AJ's not." Like I still am happy to watch AJ Styles wrestle any day of the week.
Yes. All right. Next,
and it's also funny. It's also funny that AJ and Undertaker became a meme. But anyway, even non-wrestling people will use that meme, that image for a meme.
When you're trying to buy $20 worth of gas, somebody's getting lotto tickets or whatever. When you're in line at the grocery store and someone pays with the system, paying with a check. Why do people still even do that?
I don't know. I don't know why checks are still a thing.
We give them back in my business. I don't know about you. We run them through the thing and then we give it back to you.
Sure do.
So, you can just do this with a card, right? It's the same thing. But anyway, the next guy is Samoa Joe.
He's right up there with AJ as one of the best wrestlers of his generation, and to have him on your roster at this point as a veteran, to work with the younger guys and put them over as they work their way out, in a couple of years.
Yeah.
And he is never, ever, ever gonna. And Samoa Joe is also the perfect storm because he's not only great in the ring, but he's great on the mic. Yeah. Like sometimes AJ suffers. I don't know. Yeah. Sometimes AJ suffers a little on the mic. I'm not shitting on his promos, but I'm just saying he's not an A+ promo. Samoa Joe, for a good intense promo, is an A+ too. So he's going to give you everything you want in a big baby face or a heel. Yeah. The only thing I would dissent with you on is I'd probably use him as a heel, but other than that, I definitely want him on my roster.
All right. And who's to say he ain't just going to choke somebody out in the first month because they make him mad, and then he does become a heel.
Right.
But the number one baby face in my entire company, and he's getting the belt. He's winning it. However, Aaron Stevens decides to get it onto him. Is Bryan Danielson.
Is Bryan Danielson? Sorry, we've been saying Daniel Bryan for over a decade now.
I'm gonna say the same thing I just said about the WCW, WWF, whatever. Just call him whatever the fuck you want to call him. It's fine.
Is he the Bret Hart of his generation?
Close. Of his generation. I would say yes, but I don't know.
Because I would like an AJ.
What I'm asking is like, do you consider Finn Balor and Daniel Bryan's generation?
No, I kind of consider him the next generation.
Because in a lot of ways, Finn Balor reminds me more of Bret Hart than Daniel Bryan does. Or Bryan Danielson. That's why I was asking. But yeah, for his generation, yeah, he's Bret because he's the best guy on the show. I shouldn't say the best guy on the show, but he's never going to have a bad match. He can do face, heel, whatever you want him to do. Everybody tends to like him. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like the only person that didn't like Bret was Shawn. Even the other Click guys like Bret. You know
right.
What I mean? That's a lot of things that people don't think about. Like Diesel and like X-Pac and Scott Hall and all them, they like Bret.
Mm-hmm.
They were just friends. They Shawn and Bret just didn't like each other. I mean, they were like. So I don't want to get off on some tangent thing or whatever, but yeah, And like I said, the people like him. You do whatever you want with him.
Mm-hmm.
He's gonna do whatever you. Brett would bitch, but he'd still go out there and end up doing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, kind of like Daniel Bryan.
Yeah.
You have, but yeah, definitely he's going to be. That's a good pick for the first champ too. To be, to just your main events are going to be fantastic no matter who you put him in the ring with. He's always going to give you 100%. He's going to have maybe the best match, if not one of the best matches on the card, and people dig him. And he's not that's why I kind of also liken him to Brett, because he's not a fantastic promo, but he is
Believable.
Yes.
So that is my face side. So now we'll move into the heels. Unless you want me to do tag teams, which seems kind of weird. But
No, you can do the heels now.
all right. Same preface over here until I get up to number 4. These guys are somewhat interchangeable. First guy on my list is Dolph Ziggler.
He's not gonna disappoint. I don't know. I don't know that I'd put him on my roster, but it's a good pick. He's consistent.
Yeah.
He's got. I guess my biggest thing with Dolph Ziggler is I've never ever been a fan of his promos, but in the ring I can't argue with the fact that he's fantastic.
Dolph Ziggler is on my roster for one particular reason, and I think every single professional wrestling promoter has done this. This guy is on my roster because I'm a huge fan of his. Mm-hmm. Like, if somebody's like, "Why you got Dolph Ziggler on your show?" Like, because I like him. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I don't care if you don't like him. I don't like him, and that's why he's around. God, who was I just thinking of that? They said Vince was like that with. Brian Adams, Crush. Like, he got all those chances and all those opportunities and shit because Vince just liked the guy, and he liked having him around, and he was fun to have in the locker room, and Vince just liked Brian Adams. He liked watching him work and shit, so he just kept him around. Find something for Brian. Danny, you know what I mean? Like, find something for Brian. We need to have Brian around. And Taker was his buddy and shit like that. But that's, two totally different wrestlers.
Right.
But that's why I want Dolph on my show, because I like him and he's fucking fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
I've never seen Dolph Ziggler have a bad match.
Never. No.
Ever. I've never seen him do anything that was embarrassing or stupid or anything like that. He's just he's great. So that's why he's there. Anything else on him?
Nope. Other than there's a reason that he's one of those guys that's been in the WWE for 15 years, and Vince always tries to keep him. And whether he's high on the card or not, like we've discussed before, he's also one of the guys they give the biggest salary to keep him.
Yes.
So I think you are like Vince McMahon, or I think Vince McMahon's like you. Something tells me Vince McMahon is also a fan of Dolph Ziggler.
Yes. Or somebody is.
Somebody is.
The next guy on my list is gimmick wrestler, but he's somebody that he's a modern product, like a super modern product guy right now, that whenever he's on, he catches my interest. And even if he's in something silly, he's still the good part of it. And that is Dexter Lumis. I love that gimmick. The guy looks like $1 million. Just to talk about our modern product thing, that stupid thing they just did on NXT where they went to like the go-karts and all that shit. He was like the only good thing about that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, he was entertaining in that with all that shit going on around him. But I love that gimmick. I love that character. one of the things I think they missed the boat that we're talking about talking about AEW missing the boat with Adam Page. WWE somewhat missed the boat with Dexter Lumis because he was the perfect wrestler for empty arenas.
Yeah.
And they just missed it with him. I don't know if he got hurt or what, but even if he would have been hurt, they still could have done great shit with him. And like I said, he looks fantastic. It's a great gimmick. He does the gimmick perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
I want Dexter Lumis.
All right.
Anything on Dex?
No.
All right. Next guy is Miro.
Really?
Yes. Why wouldn't you Rusev, Miro, whatever you want to call him?
I think he's one of those guys that you're probably a bigger fan of than I am.
Yeah.
I thought and think, and I get you should probably tell why first, or then before me shitting on it, or not shitting on it, but saying why not for me. To me, he at some point I lost interest and he had a shelf life, and it could have been the booking. But then I say, well, it might not have been the booking because I don't like him really that much in AEW either. So I'm not crapping on, like we say, I'm not crapping on the man's work.
He hasn't been booked that great in AEW either.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, he reached a shelf life with me, but this is your roster. So you go ahead and tell us why Miro is on your roster.
Miro doesn't work when you make him completely comedy. Like, Miro can be funny, like Rusev Day and like that and everything, but when he's in the ring, he's a badass. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's kind of where they got away from him, and that's where they hurt him. The WWE hurt him when they had him in that shit with Lashley, and AEW fucked him up when they first brought him in and put him with Kip and Penelope Ford and Chuck Taylor and all that. That ruined him. And now they're trying to make him a monster again, but it's like, just make him a not monster to begin with, and you don't have to worry about trying to.
It's really hard to put the genie back in the bottle.
Yeah.
And like I said, that's why I wanted to throw that caveat in there. Was when you said his name, I made the poo-poo face. But then I also tried to go back in my brain and think about, okay, was it him that made me think he had a shelf life, or is it the way these companies have booked him? And that's just, again, that goes back to wrestling being everything in wrestling being a personal preference, you know.
Yes. All right. Next guy, unless you got anything else on Mr. Miro.
Nope.
Is Zack Sabre Jr.
Good pick.
Yes.
Very good pick. He's like Flip Gordon, as we were discussing earlier, where he can do any high spot on the planet and do it beautifully, but he's going to pick his spot. His whole match isn't going to be, unless it's with Will Ospreay, because all Will Ospreay can do is fucking high spots. But in the general scheme of things, his match isn't going to be a bunch of high spots. It's going to be many well-timed high spots.
Yes. And he can talk.
Mm-hmm.
He's still young, even though he's been wrestling forever. And I'm going to cheat and bring Taka in with him. I'm going to bring that act over. They're going to be together, and it's going to be fun.
Taka, motherfucker.
Yeah. And
one of the greatest names of one of our shows ever.
Yes. And it was because it was a real song. You didn't believe me. It's really what he came out to. Taka, motherfucker. Japan's fucking awesome.
But I didn't have anything else on Will, but yeah.
You mean Zach? I ain't bringing in Will. Bringing in Will Ospreay. Will Ospreay's fantastic, but I'm not bringing him in.
Will Ospreay is a fantastic ballet dancer. Yes, you're right.
Well, like I said, he doesn't fit the style that I want. I don't know if you noticed, but a lot of these guys are hard-hitting, 25-minute match-having motherfuckers, and that's why I want them around. The next guy on my list is Tom Latimer. I mean, that dude is, like I said before, if you draw me a wrestler, they're gonna draw you somebody that looks like Latimer.
Mm-hmm.
And he can talk, and he looks like a grown-ass man. He's got a grown-ass man voice, and he's a professional. All professional wrestlers could kick my ass. Okay, don't get me wrong, but he looks like a guy that like if he would walk into a building, you're like, that guy could kick the shit out of any person in this room. Like any person in this building could get their ass handed to them by that guy.
Yes, and I am in no way comparing these two wrestlers, but just to compound on what Aaron said, that's why one of the most convincing world champions of all time is Harley Race.
Yes.
Harley Race carried himself and looked like he could just beat the ever-loving shit out of you if you came up to him in a bar. Like, I'm not going to walk up to that guy because he'll probably knock me out.
So, yes, Tom is on my roster. Like I said, he's built like a fucking shit brick house, and he can talk, and he looks believable. And honestly, he's not a terrible wrestler. I mean, he wrestles the style that a guy that looks like him is supposed to wrestle.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure if he wanted to, he could light it up even more. But he knows what. Okay, this is the style that I look like, so this is what I'm gonna do.
And it'll be a bit of a spoiler alert. Doesn't matter though. This guy that I'm about to mention will be on my roster, and I'm just mentioning him because it alludes to what you just said. That's how I feel about Wardlow. I like Wardlow, and Wardlow wrestles. He does very well wrestling for how he looks,
Yeah.
So anyway, we'll talk about him when I talk about my roster. But
all right, and that's what, next week?
Yes.
All right. So anything else on him?
Nope.
All right. The next guy on my list is Robert Roode.
Another good pull. You're never going to have a bad match. And you talk about your heels and your babyface sides. I'm already thinking about Robert Roode versus AJ, Robert Roode versus Samoa Joe, Robert Roode versus Adam Page.
Yeah. I mean, and he's like right at the crest. He's kind of like a guy. Oh, and I want to preface this on saying that these aren't guys like, oh, this is what they're doing now. I look at this as what I could do with these guys. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like if I would say this right now about Robert Roode in the WWE, people would laugh at me. But Robert Roode is, in my promotion, is going to be booked to the point where if I need him to go into the Great 8, I can put him in there, and he'll work in there. And he's a guy that gives a shit about his career. He's like JTG almost, in the fact that Robert Roode now looks and is better than Robert Roode was like when he was like TNA. When
he was in AMW and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Robert Roode looks, carries himself, and acts like a fucking pro wrestler.
Yeah.
There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. That guy's a pro wrestler.
Yeah. It's like, that guy work at Target, or is he a wrestler?
That guy is a fucking wrestler. Yeah. Yeah.
So, yes, Robert Roode. Anything else on him?
Nope.
All right. Next guy on my list, as we're going to get into the Great 8, is a guy we kind of mentioned earlier. It's Finn Balor.
Can't go wrong with that. It's a fantastic pick. He is... He's another big miss for WWE in that he's never been used to his full potential. Because he is, except Hunter. Hunter always uses him to his full potential. I look at him and Sheamus as like the top 2 hunter guys. Him, Sheamus, and Tommaso. They're like the hunter guys. Triple H sees that in Finn Balor and knows what he is capable of and has always used him properly, but on the main roster, not so much. He is always going to give you a good match. He's a fantastic promo. And not only is he a fantastic promo, but if any of you are listening in Ireland, it's like, that's just the way we talk around here. He's a fantastic promo, and he has the coolest Irish accent. I'm just saying, like, his promos, you're like, he sounds so fucking cool. And then you can utilize the Demon from time to time.
Yeah, and that's when that's when he turns face. But as heel Finn Balor, he's another guy that I'm gonna buy his music. He can come out to Best Around and just be like the arrogant, smarmy, shitty heel, but when he gets in the ring, he backs it up. He's not the same thing, but he's Shawn Michaels on my show. Okay, he's heel Shawn Michaels. Just a little shit, but you can't deny the fact that this guy's probably the best person on our entire fucking roster. So anything else on Mr. Balor?
No, I said what I need to say.
Okay. All right, next guy is, and like I said, I probably wouldn't be able to call these guys half of this shit, but that's Aaron Stevens' problem. Next guy on my list is Seth Rollins.
A very good pick. Other than the Monday Night Messiah era, I've never had a problem with Seth on the mic and as a character. And then at all times, he's always been fantastic in the ring. Yeah. Aaron knows I was a fan of Tyler Black back in Ring of Honor. Man, I want this guy in WWE. But
I think, excuse me, sorry. Oh, not bored with the show, guys. Just a little tired. Had to work today. But he's a guy, though, that I enjoy far more as a villain than I do a babyface. Sometimes babyface Seth can get kind of boring. Yeah. So he's the bad guy on my show, and he's just somebody that like you said, he's never gonna have a bad match on you. And if I need to turn him face, I can turn him face. It ain't gonna be very long. It'll just be till somebody gets back from an injury or something, and then he's probably gonna kick the shit out of the guy that comes back. Yeah. Because everybody be like, "Oh yay, woo, Moxley's back," and then like Seth Rollins beats him up and be like, "Oh man, you thought you were cool."
Fucking Seth Rollins.
Yeah. Fucked up our moment, that type of thing.
Yeah.
But, yeah. So anything else on Seth?
Nope. I agree.
All right. Next guy is Nick Aldis.
No, you're not gonna get any. You're not gonna get any argument here.
I was gonna say, try to shoot a hole in that one. Ain't gonna happen.
One of the best in the business. I've said it for years. His run as NWA champion, he proved that he can be a top heel, top world champion, and carry it with a grace that a pro wrestler should. He is a guy that is a world champion in the. I'm just not even going to say that I'm not comparing him to them. He is a guy in the modern era that can be a world champion in the era of a Ric Flair, a Terry Funk, or a Jack Briscoe.
Yeah.
I kind of like what I said about Robert Roode. That guy is a pro fucking wrestler.
Yeah. And how I said that, how I told you, I think Cesaro is the best wrestler on the planet. Just because you say somebody is the best wrestler doesn't mean they're your favorite wrestler.
Right.
Okay. Because there was a point where it could be said that Sean Waltman might have been one of the best, if not one of the best wrestlers on the planet, but he hasn't always been my favorite wrestler.
Correct.
Cesaro is, in my opinion, the best wrestler in the world, or at least in my world. There could be some dude in Japan that I have no idea who the fuck he is. He's like the greatest thing, or some guy in Germany or something. But Nick Aldis right now is my favorite professional wrestler. Favorite.
And I will say again, I can't argue with him being on your roster, because if you want a winning team, he's got to be a part of it.
Yes. And unless you got anything else on Mr. Aldis.
No, sir. I'll elaborate on Mr. Aldis more when I do my roster. How's that?
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Great minds think alike. And I'm sure this guy's probably on your roster too. And this guy is a guy that might not be on every week. And he might not always have an angle going on. But when he shows up, the shit's on. And it's Randy Orton.
He's goddamn Randy Orton. How do you argue with that? He's consistent. His psychology's perfect. He's perfect. Randy Orton's perfect. The only thing Randy Orton, a lot of times, anytime in his career where I have not been digging on Randy, has always been the booking of Randy. It's never been Randy himself.
Yeah.
They've put him in some boring shit, but he's never the reason that it's boring, if that makes sense.
Makes sense. And he's like, I don't want to say like how I was thinking how Randy should be used. I would say Randy should be used, if I'm going to give my booker some instructions, I would phrase it like this. I would say I want Randy Orton to be used as a more regular version of Brock Lesnar.
Mm-hmm. An attraction.
But we're not only going to bring him around twice a year. I mean, he's going to be around, but
right.
When he comes out or when he's involved in something, it means something. You know
yes.
what I mean?
Yes. It has an impact.
Yes. And you can even say he doesn't always have a feud going. Maybe if he hasn't been on for a while, you can just be like, ladies and gentlemen, let's just in. Randy Orton's wrestling next week. He's going to fight this guy. And people are like, you know what I mean?
Yep.
And he might have the belt maybe once a year for a couple months. But, yeah.
He's also another guy, like you said about Seth Rollins, with his character and his psychology and his moveset and everything, that he's a guy that, okay, you said Seth Rollins, say Dean Ambrose comes back or Jon Moxley comes back, and then Seth Rollins comes out to foil his return, and then that's a feud. Randy is a guy on the opposite spectrum where, say, Jon Moxley needs 3 months off. Randy Orton, with his attitude, his psychology, his moveset, is the guy that puts Moxley out.
Yeah.
And then Moxley comes back for the revenge feud.
Yeah. And then we can be like, Randy, why'd you do that? And he'd be like, I don't know, I just felt like it.
Yeah. I didn't like the look on his face.
Yeah. Like, it's a totally different thing, but it's one of my favorite lines ever, is when in AWA they asked Larry Zbyszko, like, did you help Kurt Hennig win the AWA title? Did you take that money? Did you do it for the money? And Zbyszko's just like, yeah.
Yeah. Why else would I do it?
A lot of money. That's a dude, man. I didn't like him when I was a kid, but the older I got, I'm like,
same,
awesome.
Same.
That dude is fucking awesome. I don't care what anybody says. He's fucking great. That's my opinion.
The moment I realized I liked Larry Zbyszko was his deals with Raven in TNA.
Yeah.
So then I started going back. And I was like, all right, okay. I liked Larry more than I thought I liked Larry.
That dude's awesome. So that is.
But I mean, he learned from Bruno and Vern. Jesus.
Yeah. So yeah, that's my my singles roster there. My 20
all
guys.
Right.
I think it's pretty good. And oh, go ahead.
I'm gonna go piss real quick.
Okay.
Be right back. All right.
Excuse me. Jesus. Yeah.
So now we're going into your tag team roster here.
Yes. There's only 5 teams, so shouldn't take too long.
And I think I have at least 2 in my mind that I know you're gonna pick, and I'll let you know when you say them.
All right. 2 of them are teams that aren't even teams right now. They're just 4 guys that I wanted, but
That's modern wrestling anyway.
didn't quite make my top 10 on either side. So I put them together. And I'll even open with one of those teams.
Mhm.
And it's Sami Zayn teaming with Dominic Dijakovic.
That's interesting.
He's not T-Bar.
Interesting. That's interesting, but I like it. Like there's like the big man that's impressive and the small man with a big mouth.
Yeah, they're my
And I'm not.
Diesel.
Yeah, I'm not calling Sami Zayn you know what I mean. In pro wrestling, you know.
Sami Zayn is like William Regal. He makes him smell smaller. Like he's smart enough to make himself small. He puts on the jacket and the hat and the big beard and all that stuff, so he looks like a smaller. Like Regal used to say, he did that shit all the time when he was bigger than the guy he was working with or whatever. If they were going to be on a promo together, he'd crouch down a little bit and like Sami Zayn.
Thinking about the training and NXT and everything, that's probably something William Regal taught Sami Zayn.
Yeah, and Sami Zayn's not afraid to be goofy or smacked around or whatever. And like I said, when that shit happens and you got Dominic, he can come out there and he's this big heater. And eventually, if I want to move Dominic into like the heel side, Sami can be his manager. Shit like that. So I think they're a good. I think they would be a good team, and you get a lot out of it. I think.
And you go because you and I both would have in modern wrestling we would have old school patience, because in modern wrestling this storyline would play out in 6 months, But in old school patience, you do 2 years, because 2 years from now they break up, and now you got Dominic as a fucking big ass badass baby face.
Yeah.
Against his formerly shit heel friend Sami Zayn, who somehow screwed him over.
Yeah.
Or whatever. Yeah.
So I think they would be a fun tag team.
Like when Lou Albano took Jimmy Snuka's money, and Buddy Rogers was like, "Now wait a fucking minute."
Yeah. Piece of shit. I've done a lot of shit, but I never took nobody's money. Fuck.
But yeah, I like that. That's a good team.
All right. The next team on my list is Roderick Strong and Bobby Fish.
I like it. I probably would have went with Fish and O'Reilly, but any combination is good.
Yeah, and I know people Fish and O'Reilly, but I actually like Roderick Strong better than Kyle O'Reilly. I always have. I've always been a Roderick Strong fan, and I want Roderick Strong on my roster. I like Bobby Fish, and I think, and I know you probably thought I was going to go O'Reilly, Fish, maybe. I don't know.
No, yeah, that would actually. I did. I did. I thought that was one of the teams that I thought you were going to go with. So,
but and like I said, I like O'Reilly. Don't get me wrong. But I'm a bigger fan of Roderick Strong, and I honestly think they look cooler together. Like, I think they're a better team, and that's just my opinion. So that's the next team on my list, unless you got anything on them.
Well, I was just going to say, either combination of those three, you weren't going to go wrong. I was like, oh, what do you mean Roderick Strong? That wasn't what I was trying to do. I
understand.
My personal preference would have been the other. So, but other than that, no, I had nothing else on that. Great pick.
All right. The next team is FTR.
And that's the other one I knew you were going to pick.
Why wouldn't you want these guys?
Mm-hmm. And as a side note, a team that AEW and WWE folks have both misused.
Yes.
There is no excuse other than their arrogance for the young fucks doing what they did in their feud with FTR.
I agree, and like I said, they're why you wouldn't want these guys. I don't understand why you wouldn't. I'm not even saying you got to put the belt on them right away or anything like that.
Well, I was going to say I thought that was going to be your first champs. To be honest with you,
you don't know if they are yet or not.
True,
but they're not. But anyway, I think they're more of a. I don't want to say it. Not chasing it, but I don't want to put it on them right away. Mm-hmm. I want to get that belt established as a belt, and I don't know. I had a reason for not wanting to do it right away, but it's just they're not a team I think that needs it right away, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
But anything else on those guys?
They are, like Aaron said,
guys. Anything else on FTR? It's just those guys over there.
Anything else on those guys? Like you said earlier, in my world, maybe there's a tag team in Japan or Ireland or something that's better. In my world, FTR for the past at least 5 to 6 years is the best tag team in the world. So yeah, you have no argument there. They're the best tag team in the world. That's the end of the story, And like I said, I think both of the major promotions have done them dirty, and WWE more because of Vince and his. I'm sorry. More. I need to clarify now as we do these shows until he dies. All right, let me go back. Old Vince did them dirty. And AEW really did too. They got the best tag team in the world, and they never won the straps. And they are literally, you got the best tag team in the world and they're a fucking afterthought. And it's stupid.
Yeah.
But anyway, yes, definitely FTR.
All right. So the next team is one that was put together because I want these guys on my show. I just didn't know where to put them in the pecking order of my faces and heels. So right now they're going to be a tag team until I feel like breaking them up. And it is LA Knight and Austin Theory. I think they would look great together.
I think they would look good together. I also think that what do I say? I nod to your strategy in bringing them as a team so you could get them on your roster because I would break them up very quickly. Not break them up to have them have a feud, but bring them as a tag team and then they would very shortly break off into singles just because I don't look at either one as a tag team wrestler.
Yeah.
But I definitely think they're good pulls to have on your roster. Fucking LA Knight. And this is a big statement, people. I really, honest to God, and this is back to NWA and everything. That guy has as much charisma as Steve Austin has.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And he is going to be, if used properly, in one of the two companies, because you never know how WWE is going to treat somebody when they go to the main roster. That guy's going to be a world champion for 2 decades in this business, like a Randy Orton or a John Cena or Roman Reigns or what have you. He is definitely that caliber of a performer. And Austin Theory has potential. And I say that with a capital P.
Man.
Like that dude, you watch him in the ring and you watch his psychology and everything, he doesn't even know how good he is yet.
And that's why I think they'd be a great tag team. I just think they would be. And they're both like
cocky.
Yeah, these guys would be friends, I think. You know what I mean? Be friends. And part of it would be because they're each other's only friend because everybody else is just like this cocky piece of shit.
I was about to say, and this is not to offend anybody. This is wrestling, people. So gimmicks are gimmicks, and personalities are personalities, and the point is to piss you off when they're a heel. Literally, these two guys would be like, all right, just for fun tonight, let's see which one can fuck the fat chick.
Yeah.
Does that make sense what I'm saying? And I'm not trying to be offensive. I'm just saying that the douchebagginess, of their
That's how we get the cameo with Vicky Guerrero. You can edit that out if you want. Sorry.
But yeah, I mean that's essentially, you're right. They're like the same animal,
Yeah. And I just like thinking of them like pulling up to the arena in their car, just being assholes. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I think honestly, I know you said break them up quick. I think the team has legs and can go for a while, which is why I'm putting my belts on them.
Call them the DBs. Don't ever say douchebag either.
Yeah.
Just call them the DBs.
But what's that stand for? It stands for double banger, bro. And like they think it stands for different stuff.
Yeah. Why do these guys both smell like Dakar Noir all the time? Jesus.
And these next guys would be some guys who would be nipping at their heels, and they'd tell you that DB stands for dick butt. And that is Mark and Jay, the Briscoe brothers.
Oh, fuck yeah. On the fucking farm, baby.
Yeah. Just think of the gimmick that I just built, the tag gimmick I just built for LA Knight and Austin Theory, and imagine them feuding with the Briscoe brothers. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And the first time they have any interaction, like LA Knight and Austin Theory are just assholes to everybody all throughout the roster, okay? Punking out people and doing this and doing that. And the first time Austin Theory pops off something to like one of the Briscoes, they just knock him on his ass. Greg is just like would just run, you know, and I like just get out. Like, oh shit! Like not even help his buddy. You know?
You could even be like Mark and Jay Briscoe are like, fat girl. That's my sister, motherfucker.
Yeah.
You know, something to that effect, you know?
Yeah. And
that's,
it would
good
be
old-fashioned, old-school wreshling heat. And you got to bring Papa Briscoe in at some point.
Yeah. And people would want to see the Briscoes kick this shit out of these guys. You know what I mean?
Are the Briscoes... This is a big question. This is a big fucking question. And I'm not saying that Ring of Honor hasn't been amazing at times, and I haven't been. The Ring of Honor is a weird promotion because it's literally the promotion that I have loved and hated at times through its entire existence. But are the Briscoes the Briscoes the best tag team to quote unquote never be in the big leagues?
Possible.
You know, like somewhere, sometime, goddamn, talk about loyalty to a promotion. Somewhere down the line, WWE, TNA, AEW, et cetera, all these promotions that have come, New Japan, these promotions that have come and gone or are still around, those two guys might be in the history of the business the best tag team to never be on the large. And I'm not shitting on it, ROH, folks. Don't get me wrong, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like nobody ever snagged them, and I think that's mostly them. I think they're very loyal to ROH.
Probably, and I know they actually do work on that farm and do all that shit, and so they don't have to work a full-time schedule. I know they've said some shit in the past that the WWE doesn't want.
Right.
And honestly, I don't think Tony Khan's stupid, so he's probably like,
maybe not.
Maybe not. But I think it's a collection of the fact that they've said shit before in the past that might not be the greatest thing in the world, and that they want to stay close to home. But this is my alternate reality. So in my world,
they signed the big money deal.
Yeah, and they didn't say that stuff. So that is my roster.
And I like it. It's a good modern roster.
Yes.
All right. So I give Aaron's roster a big thumbs up. I'll do mine next week. And we will continue on with Dream Roster episodes at least until we get to October the 2nd and our appearance at Heroes and Legends Wrestling. But Aaron, anything else you want to say as we close up this week?
Nope, just thanks for listening. If you're in the Fort Wayne area and you go to that show, stop by and say hey.
Absolutely.
And just keep on listening to all the shows, all the new people that are coming in, all that good stuff.
And we are... Between We Can't Wrestle podcast and Reliving the Extreme and WrestleNet Radio, like Aaron always says, we're the best kept secret in the wrestling podcast industry. And I think growth is coming, especially with the exposure going to this convention. I think things are going to be big. So if you're a listener and you're a loyal listener, because there are some of you, and I do see how many downloads we have and stuff, and we aren't, Aaron says, best kept secret. We aren't necessarily a secret. We do pretty well. He always says our 7 listeners. But if you are listening and you're going to be in Fort Wayne, come see us. I'll put you on the fucking show, guys. I'm not Brian Last or Conrad Thompson. It's going to be like, well, I mean... What? Let me talk. Roll Tide.
Roll Tide with your dick pills.
And I'm not going to be like, well, I mean, I am the host of Jim Cornette's podcasts. No, that's not how we're doing. That's not how we do shit here. This is a podcast for the people.
Yeah.
But anyway, come see us in Fort Wayne, October the 2nd. Other than that, if you can't, keep listening, keep supporting everything we're doing here at the We Can't Wrestle podcast family. And we will see you next week, everybody, as I will present my modern wrestling roster. We'll see you next week, everybody. Have a great week, and thanks for listening once again to the We Can't Wrestle podcast.